I believe the connection is fine now. So thank you all of you for joining us and for being part of this. Today I'm going to talk about something that is very, very important. So I want you to pay attention to me. I told you that this is 5 days, 5 changes that will set you up for the greatest change in your life. If you pay attention this 5 day period, I'm telling you that something unique will happen to your life this 5 day course. I am not here to pray with you throughout this Friday. This 5 days, my purpose is not to pray with anyone. My purpose is to counsel. My purpose is to advise. My purpose is to bring you information. Information is very, very crucial. The Bible says something that for lack of knowledge, my people perish. Knowledge is very, very important. The acquisition of knowledge is paramount to your life standing. So today I'm going to deal with this issue when it comes to knowledge. So just share this with someone. Invite someone to join us. Invite someone to join us. I'm just going to start in about 1 minute. Invite someone to join us. Invite someone to be part of this. Listen to me. Success is possible for anyone. Anyone can be successful. I began this series on Monday by telling you that anyone can start anything. It is easy to start something in life. In fact, it is very easy to be successful. And I'll give you some understanding of what I'm trying to say very, very soon. But it is very, very easy to be successful. Anyone can be successful. No one is born to fail in life. If you want to be successful, you will be successful. Life is governed by principles, and you must understand the principles of life. Depending on where we are going in life, each one of us, our journey is ordered by principle. Our journey is governed by principles. If you can understand those principles, if you can understand those laws, those regulations of life as to where you are going, you will succeed in life. So today I'm going to talk about those things that will bring you to the hallmark of your destiny. It will bring you to understand where you are going in life. Solomon, as I told you, according to the Bible, he is the wisest of all men, or he was the wisest of all men. He was the richest of all men. And Solomon gave an advice. And it is an advice that I want to share with you because the advice that he gave is what has governed my own life since high school. Since high school, I started reading the book of Ecclesiastes. And I read it over and over and over again. The book of Ecclesiastes is a counsel. It is the advice of a man who had failed in life. And he decided that he will help other people not to fail as he failed, or not to get to the point of life that he got himself to. So the book of Ecclesiastes is a very, very interesting book. It is a book that deals with vanity. Solomon began by saying that everything is vanity. Everything is a chasing after the wind. And he began to tell us his record as to why he's saying these things. He tells us that he has done everything that there is to do on earth. He has had parties that has invited kingdoms and all kinds of things. He had 300 wives and he has 700 mistresses and all kinds of things. So he's a man loaded with experiences, a man who had mansions, a man who had a kingdom to himself, a man who has done anything that he said his heart found right to do. And I told you from before that if you see someone on their way down and you are heading up, you should stop them and ask them, how was the journey up? You should never bypass anyone who is coming from the same direction that you are going. You should never bypass anyone who is coming from the direction that you are going to. The reason is because they have information about the direction that you are going to that you must acquire if you will be successful. Definitely you will get to that destination, but that person will be able to reveal to you certain mistakes, certain pitfalls, certain hindrances that you can avoid if you are to be successful in that same journey. So what I will deal with you today is an advice that Solomon recorded in the book of Ecclesiastes 9, the verse number 11. He made a statement over there. And this is the statement I've been dealing with as the 5 executive principles or the 5 cardinal principles of life. In these 5 cardinal principles of life, Solomon reveals unto us what he discovered under the sun, or what he has discovered for the success of humanity on earth. What would it take for a person to succeed on earth? These are the 5 governing principles. He began by saying that number 1, the race is not to the swift. The race is not to the swift. I told you from the beginning that life is a race. We are all in a race in life. We are all in a race in life. But we are all not racing to the same place. We are all not headed to the same place, but we are all in a race. And you must understand that in life, everyone is part of a race. Some run for the purpose of just losing weight. Some run for the purpose of glory. Some run for the purpose of a prize. And some run just for the fun of it. Some run just because they want to be seen running. Some run because it is a hobby for them. Whatever the case, everyone is in a race. Everyone is running. Whatever the reason you are running is what you have to check. And Solomon said that the race of life is not to the swift. He said that I returned and I saw under the sun. And I'll pick these words very, very carefully. He said, I returned and I saw under the sun. Those 3 things, I returned and I saw under the sun. The first thing I returned is that he had been somewhere and then he came back to his senses. And when he came back to his senses, he had an observation of life, a clarity of life that he previously never had. He said, I returned. In other words, he went so far in life. He did certain things that were not right. And then he came back and he said, I returned. I have returned from the edges of life and I've made a discovery as a result of my journey. And I want to unveil this results, this observation of my journey unto you. So he said, I saw under the sun. That where under the sun means that I saw on earth that the race is not to the swift. We are all in a race, he said. But however, the race is not to the swift. It is not how fast you are. Success has nothing to do with how fast you are in life. Success has nothing to do with who began first in life. You can begin first, but you can be last. In school, I saw many students that were intelligent. In fact, in high school, there was a student in my high school class. He was the most intelligent guy in the high school. Well, I mean, that is debatable. But he is intelligent. And this guy and I went to the same university. So not only did we go to the same high school, we went to the same university. In high school, this guy was the valedictorian. And when we got to college, after 1 year of college, I saw his life completely changed. He changed completely. He started living a life, going to parties, chilling, having fun with women and all kinds of things. By the time I realized, the guy that began well in life, the guy that was the valedictorian, the first in my high school class, began to sink in life. It is not about who started first. It is not about who began before you began. Never be jealous about anyone. Never envy anyone in life. Because the race is not to the swift. It is one thing to start. It is another thing to finish. Many will start, but they will not finish. Many will begin, but they will never have a good conclusion in life. That is why you should never envy anyone in life. Don't look at what people are doing right now and be intimidated. It is recorded by Solomon, the same individual we are dealing with today. Solomon made a statement and said, the end of a thing is better than its beginning. The end of a thing, the end of a matter is better than its beginning. The end of everything is what is important. When men and women are running on a racetrack, their focus is on the finish line, not on the start line. They are focused. Most of them don't even look at the start line when they are running. They lift up. If you have ever run a racetrack, you don't bend your head down to look at the start line. You lift your head up so that you can see the finish line. In life, your head must be lifted to the finish line, not to the start. Many people are focused on the beginning. That is why they are not getting to the end. Many people are focused on how they are starting, where they are in life. That is why they are not focused on where they are going in life. Lift up your head. Look at where you are going. If you can see where you are going, your beginning will be better. Life is a marathon. Life is not a 100-meter dash. Life is not a 100-meter heat. It is a marathon. And I told you from the beginning that God is a marathoner. A marathoner is someone who runs a marathon. And a marathoner is only focused on the finish line. A marathoner does not care about the beginning. Many people begin running a marathon by running it as though it is a 100-meter dash or a 100-meter heat. They begin with speed. But in a marathon, if you begin with speed, you will not get to your destination on time. Life is about endurance. It's not about speed. Life is about perseverance. It's not about speed. Take your time very carefully. Next week, I'm going to deal with a subject I've entitled The Master Builder. The Master Builder. And the following week, I will deal with something I've entitled The Master Spirit. The reason is because many people do not understand building. When you are building something, you don't begin from the roof. You begin from the foundation. When you are building something, you don't begin from the roof. You begin from the foundation. A lot of people are copying what people are doing. You see, when you see successful people, you see them at their height. So when you are copying them, you copy them at their height. That is a mistake. You see, what you don't know is that they had a beginning. But they will never tell you what the beginning is. You look at them on TV, you look at them on social media, and you see them at a certain pedestal in life. You see them at their mountaintop in life. If you are not careful, you will be copying the things that they are doing on their mountaintop, because you never saw their valley. You never saw their beginning. What you do at the valley is not the same as what you do at the mountaintop. But what you do at the mountaintop is what will get you to the valley top. Do not allow someone's mountain to become your valley. Listen carefully. Do not allow someone's mountain to become your valley. Don't copy what someone is doing at the top and do it in your beginning of life. No. I told you before about something that was told to me many years ago by my spiritual father. He said to me that if you begin life where your father ended, you will end where your father began. Let me say this again to you. If you begin life where your father ended, you will end where your father began. Nobody begins building from the rooftop. Everyone begins from the foundation. And I need you to understand this so that you are not intimidated by what people are doing. Because even though we are all in a race, we are all not headed to the same destination. Let me say this again. We are all in a race, but we are all not headed to the same destination. That is why it is not essential to compete with anyone. The only competition you have in life is yourself. Listen again and let me say this to you. The only competition you have in life is yourself. The only person you must follow in life is yourself. Let me give you a story that happened to me. One day, I was driving from Connecticut to New York, and on my way driving down, I was driving the church bus. And while I was driving, the church bus, our church bus is a very old bus. It's a 1999 Ford E350. It's a very strong car. It's a V8, but it's old. It has spent its life and its days. And here I am driving this bus, going down on the highway on the I-95. And as I was driving, I saw many cars were passing me by. But I paid attention to two cars that passed me by. One of them was a Ford Focus. It passed me by. And the other one that passed me by was a Tesla, the electric car. Very, very nice car. It's an SUV with the Falcon wings that comes out. Very, very beautiful car. So as I was driving, I was looking at it. And I was on the I-95 from Connecticut to New York. You know what happened? When we got to a certain place on the exit number 3 in Connecticut, the Tesla exited and took its own destiny. But you know something? I did not follow the Tesla. I did not change my focus because I like what I saw in that Tesla. Just because I admire the Tesla does not mean that I should change my course in life. I kept my course. I kept my focus because I had my own destination. The Tesla also had its own destination. I admired it, but I did not follow it. In life, you have a right to admire things, but you should not follow it. You have a right to admire things, but you should not follow it. I had my own destination. My destination was to reach to New York, was to get to New York. And because my destination was to get to New York, I did not change course just because of what I saw, just because it was beautiful. Many people in life have changed course. Many people in life have lost focus, all because of the very fact that they saw something else that inspired them. There are things in life that will inspire you, but you should never follow where it leads. You should follow your own path in life. And that you must understand. The race is not to the swift. It does not matter who began first. Many people rose, but at this point in their life, they have returned back to zero. Solomon was lifted to the highest pedestal in life, but he failed in life. He was brought low in life. That is why he said, I returned. In other words, he came back to his origin. He came back to his beginning. And he said, I have now recognized that the race is not to the swift. I have now recognized that it does not matter how fast you are, how swift you are. Life is endurance. Life is a marathon. Take your time. Take your time. And I said this unto you. And many people pray and they ask God for things. I'll talk about this later. Say, God, bless me with a house. I want a 5-bedroom. God, bless me with a car. I want a Lamborghini. I want a Maybach and whatnot. And many people are asking God for things that they cannot maintain. If God gives it to you, how would you maintain it? I'll talk about this at the end of what I'm about to say. If you work in McDonald's and you are praying that God should bless you with a 5-bedroom house, and God gives you the 5-bedroom house, how are you going to maintain it? Are you thinking about the property tax? Are you thinking about the responsibilities that comes with maintaining it? Your problem is McDonald's on that minimum wage. Your problem is not where you are living right now. And that is what you have to think about. And many people are doing things without not understanding their current predicament in life. Take your time. It is not a race that we are all headed to the same place. It is a race, but your destination is different. Number 2, principle number 2 in life that will help you get where you want to get in life. The battle is not to the strong. The battle is not to the strong. Principle number 2. The battle is not to the strong. Your greatest strength will be revealed in your greatest weakness. Your greatest strength is revealed in your greatest weakness. Never diminish your weakness, because in your weakness is a strength. Let me say this again. Never diminish your weakness, because in your weakness is a strength. Every individual on earth has a weakness. There is not an individual on earth without a weakness. That should tell you something. That means that weakness is a gift. I know this is a very hard thing for you to know, but weakness is a gift. Just as God gives talents, gifts, such as the ability to sing, the ability to draw, and all kinds of things. Weakness is a gift. Understand this. Paul, one of the greatest characters in the New Testament aside from Jesus, made a statement. He said that God bestowed upon him a tremendous amount of grace. Paul said, a lot of grace was given unto me beyond measure. Paul said, I had grace beyond measure. In other words, I was gifted beyond measure. Then he said, but a thorn was placed in my flesh. But a thorn was placed in my flesh. A weakness was placed in me. A weakness was also given to me. Listen carefully. He said, I was given gifts beyond measure. But in addition to that, a weakness was also given to me. He calls it a thorn in my flesh. But he did not understand the benefits of weaknesses. So he went to God and he said, God, please take away this weakness from me. All I want is the giftings that are good. All I want is the grace beyond measure that you have given to me. But remove this weakness out of me. Remove it. And then he said, he prayed the first time. God did not reply. Then he said he prayed the second time. God did not reply. Then he prayed the third time. Then he said, God said unto him, Paul, my grace is sufficient for you. Then Paul discovered that the weakness was given unto him so that he may not exalt himself. The weakness was given to him as a gift to measure himself, to humble himself, not to be condescending, not to use or not to abuse the giftings that were given unto him. So as a result of that, he was given a weakness to check him, to humble him. Many people want to be humble, but Paul said, for me to be humbled, they place a weakness that will check me. Weakness is not always a bad thing. Your greatest strength is found in your weakness. For Paul, his greatest strength, which is meekness and humbleness, was as a result of his weakness. You remember the story of Samson, one of the strongest characters in the historic chapters. Samson, we are told, was so strong that one day he used a bone of an animal and he killed 1,000 people all by himself. Now, when he was born, he was given a mission. His mission was to conquer the entire Philistine nation. But Samson was so childish. Samson used his giftings for entertainment, his strength for entertainment. Sometimes he would just go around, and we are told according to the story that he would kill 300 forces, and he would tie their tails together. Kill 300 forces, tie all of them, their tails together, and swing them, and throw them, and then he's just having fun. Because of the gift that was given to him, he forgot his mission was to conquer the entire enemy nation of the Philistine who were fighting against the Israelites. So what happened? God placed a weakness in Samson. If Samson was going to fulfill his mission on earth, he needed a weakness. Without the weakness, Samson could not have fulfilled his mission. I know we always talk about the weakness of Samson, but listen carefully. You cannot blame the weakness on Samson because it was God that placed the weakness on him. Let me say this again. You cannot blame the weakness of Samson on Samson because it was God that placed the weakness on Samson. Samson's mother was told that when your child is born, his weakness will be that if you cut his hair, he will lose his strength. He will lose his power. So the weakness of Samson was given by God. So let me say this to you again. Your greatest strength is found in your weakness. Let me say this again in a different way. Weakness is a gift. If you know how to handle your weakness, you will be successful in life. Do not diminish your weakness. Do not run away from your weakness. Do not bury your weakness. Rather, learn to manage your weakness. Samson told Delilah that my weakness is my hair. If you cut it, I'll be weak. And Delilah did exactly that. Don't blame Delilah for it. She was just an accessory. Then the next thing was that the Philistines took Samson, placed him in bondage in a dungeon. They caused him to grind. Grind. Why? Because Samson had lost focus to his mission on earth. This guy was playing around with forces when he was told that his destiny was to destroy the Philistine nation. He was going around playing with forces and women. So a weakness was placed inside of him that got him back to focus. So he was placed in a focus room where he was grinding as a slave that the Philistines had. And as he was grinding, his hair was growing again. His hair was growing again. It was the weakness that made him think about his mission. If he had not had that weakness, he would not have thought about his mission and focus in life. Listen again to this. The next thing that happened to Samson was this. This guy was in there. The Philistines had a great feast, the biggest feast they have ever had. And in this feast that they had, they invited the 5 kings of the Philistine state. These 5 kings were part of Samson's assignment in life to destroy all the 5 kings. But Samson was not focused. He was fooling around. But when his weakness placed him in that predicament, he became focused. Now his weakness has also led him to a gathering where all the 5 kings will be. So now he can destroy all the 5 kings within one instant. So this is his prayer unto God. He said, God, let me today perish with these 5 kings. Let me die with all these people today. Give me one last chance to prove myself worthy of the gift you have bestowed upon me. So the 5 kings had organized that Samson would be used as sport, as entertainment for their feasting. They brought Samson out. They placed him in that room. Samson laid his hands on the pillars. And when he laid his hands on the pillars, he began to cry out. He began to cry out. He began to call unto God. And immediately we are told that the foundation of the place was shaken because the pillars was broken. And in that day we were told that all the 5 kings died. And Samson killed more people on that day than he has ever killed in his entire life. He killed more enemies on that day. Do you know why Samson prayed and said, let me die with them? Because it was for this reason he was born. He was born to destroy the entire nation. And when your purpose is complete on earth, you have no reason to live. The only reason why you are still alive is because of a purpose. When your purpose is fulfilled, you have no reason to live. And for Samson, the fulfilling of his purpose was among those people. And he said, if I'm able to accomplish this, if I am able to terminate all these enemies within one instant, then there is no reason for me to live. Your purpose is the end of your journey. Paul said, I have run the race. I have fought a good cause. He said, there is now left nothing for me to do. See, when your purpose is fulfilled, there is nothing else for you to do. When the Pharisees were trying to kill Jesus, a message was brought to Jesus that they are looking for you to kill you. And Jesus made a statement. He said, my time is not yet come. In other words, I cannot die yet because my purpose is not fulfilled. When my purpose is fulfilled, I will die. So when they placed him on the cross, he said, it is finished. If it was not finished, he will not die. Purpose is the only reason why you are alive. And that is why Samson died. So many people ask, why did Samson die with them? He had no other reason to live. His only reason that he was born was for the sake of that Philistine nation, was to conquer the nation. And he had killed all the 5 kings in that one day. So weakness is very, very important. You must understand your weakness if you'll be successful in life. So yesterday I told you that there are over 20 billionaires on earth today. And I told you to buy a book yesterday and read that book. That book is entitled David and Goliath. It is written by Gladwell, David and Goliath. The subtitle, I believe, is Underdogs, Misfits, and I forgot the last statement. David and Goliath by Gladwell. But I want you to understand that in that book, Gladwell made a statement that there are 20 billionaires on earth today who have a weakness. And they have all said that the reason why they succeed was because of their weakness. These 20 billionaires all have a sickness or a disorder. We'll not call it a sickness, it's a disorder, it's a disability. It is called dyslexia. And dyslexia is a disorder in language. A disorder in language of reading comprehension. In other words, when you read, you are slow. You are slow to grab information. You are slow to understand information. Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Groups, who is one of the billionaires, made a statement and he said that his weakness of dyslexia taught him how to manage his company. And he said as a result of dyslexia, he said that he decided to make everything simple in his company. So his company is known for simplicity. Simplicity. He said that in his company, no one is allowed to use jargons. No one is allowed to use big words because he himself is slow to understand. So because of that, he has made it so simple that everyone can understand what they are doing. That is why he said he was successful to his company. He was successful to his customers. The reason was because of the fact that everything was made simple. Because he himself, he needed things to be simple to understand it, because his weakness was dyslexia, which is a disorder of comprehension. His weakness taught him how to manage things. So all around the world, the Virgin Group companies is known for simplicity. It's known for how to do things simply, in all kinds of things. And that is why their customers are drawn to them and all kinds of things. Virgin Groups like Virgin Airlines, Virgin Mobile, and all those companies and things like that. So this is essential. Your weakness has strength inside of it. Notice very carefully and learn that. There is strength in your weakness. There is strength in your weakness. Let me check my time. There is strength in your weakness. The third principle I am talking to you today. The third principle I am talking to you today is this. Bread is not to the wise. Bread is not to the wise. That word bread is interpreted and translated as a symbolism of livelihood or success. In other words, what will sustain you in life is not because of wisdom. A lot of people tell us that without wisdom, you will not succeed in life. It is not true. I'll prove that to you very soon. We do not succeed alone because of wisdom. We understand one thing about wisdom. Solomon made a statement. He said, wisdom is a principal thing. That word principal means it is the first thing. That word first means it is the foundational thing. That word foundational means that it is the beginning of all things. So wisdom is a principal thing. Don't get me wrong. Wisdom is essential. In fact, you need wisdom. You need wisdom. But I also want you to understand that not everyone who has succeeded on earth had wisdom. The fact that you have wisdom does not mean that you shall become rich. There are a lot of wise poor people on earth. There are a lot of wise, unsuccessful people on earth. They are wise, but they are not successful. Why is it that? And that is what I'm going to teach you today. Why can someone be wise and not be successful? The fact that someone is wise does not mean they will be successful on earth. There was a story in the book of Ecclesiastes and Proverbs. It is the story of a poor wise man. Could you believe the paradox of the statement? A poor wise man. Solomon said, I saw a poor wise man in a city, and the city was under siege by an enemy. An enemy was about to overtake the city, and the king of the city did not know what to do. And a poor wise man came forward, and by his wisdom, he told the king how to save the city. And the story was that after the city was saved, nobody remembered the poor wise man again. He went back into his poverty. He was wise, He was able to deliver a whole city, but he couldn't cash it. He couldn't make money out of his wisdom. The fact that you are wise does not mean that you have bread to eat. Bread is not to the wise. Success is not only to the wise. Understand that very, very carefully. Wisdom is a principal thing. Wisdom is the first thing, but wisdom is not the last thing. Understand that statement. Yes, it is true. Wisdom is a principal thing, which means wisdom is the first thing. But the first thing is not the last thing, is it? No, it's not. There is a difference between the first thing and the last thing. Wisdom is the first thing, but wisdom is not the last thing. So in addition to wisdom, you need something else. You need the last thing. You need the last thing. And that is what this poor wise man did not have. He had wisdom. There are 4 categories of wisdom. The first wisdom is what we called the innate wisdom of man. It is called the wisdom of man, or the wisdom of men, the wisdom of women, the wisdom of humanity. Since, things are changing right now. When you say a man, you have to say a woman too. But understand this. The first category of wisdom is what we call the wisdom of man, or the wisdom of a woman, or the wisdom of humanity. That wisdom is the wisdom you were born with. It's the wisdom that you grew up with. In other words, even if you were born in a remote island somewhere, you still know the difference between good and evil. Because something deep inside of you tells you what is right and what is not right. That is wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom, as we are told, is defined as the ability to discern between good and evil, bad and good. Mike Murdoch, a teacher of wisdom doctrines, teaches and defines wisdom as wisdom is the ability to discern difference. He said wisdom is the ability to discern difference. That is his definition. In other words, with wisdom, you can tell the difference between 2 things. That is wisdom. So there is man's wisdom that he was born with. And with that wisdom, he can tell the difference between things, even if he was not taught it. My definition of wisdom is this. Wisdom is the ability to negotiate what to do and what not to do. My personal definition of wisdom is the ability to negotiate what to do and what not to do. It is the ability to know where you must be and where you should not be. It is the ability to know who you must be with and who you must not be with. Wisdom is the ability to negotiate between truths. Solomon, on the other hand, tells us that the beginning of wisdom is this. Get wisdom. That guy is very confusing. He says the beginning of wisdom is this. Get wisdom. When I was growing up, I had this written all over my room. I had it on my computer. I had it on my desk. Anything that I had access to, I wrote next to it. The beginning of wisdom is this. Get wisdom. And with all your getting, get understanding. Another translation said, even if it costs you all you have, get understanding. And tomorrow I'll talk about understanding. Even if it costs you all you have, get understanding. Wisdom is important. Wisdom is crucial. The first wisdom is the wisdom of man. The second wisdom is the wisdom of this world. The wisdom of this world. The wisdom of this world is the wisdom that you acquire through institutions such as schools, academic institutions. So we also call it academic wisdom. Academic wisdom. It is the wisdom that you learn from schools. It is the wisdom that you acquire through institutions. You must understand this. For you to be successful in life, There is a level of wisdom that you must acquire. You must have the wisdom of man. Now, the wisdom of man increases through experience, so we call it also experiential wisdom. It's another another name for it is experiential wisdom, because as you grow in wisdom. The Bible says Jesus grew in stature and in wisdom. Wisdom comes as a result of age as well. So it is called experiential wisdom, because the more things you experience in life, you begin to learn more about what to do and what not to do. You begin to discern difference. You begin to find out how to negotiate your life to be successful and all kinds of things. And so experience is important. That is why if you do not have certain experience in life, you should find someone who can help you. The wisdom of age is important. Don't let nobody tell you that age is not important when it comes to wisdom. Age is important when it comes to wisdom. Even a foolish drunkard who has lived for 80 years has something that you do not know. A foolish drunkard who has lived 80 years knows something that will benefit your life. For the very fact that he is still a drunkard up until the age of 80 years tells you that this man carries some wisdom that will help you not to end like a fool. Never belittle anyone. Never undermine anybody. Never undermine anybody. Everyone carries an information that you need in life to succeed. Make use of people in your life. Make use of people in your life. Make use of people. People you encounter, especially make use of people who have lived to be old. Make use of them. Because over the years and over the age, things have changed. You remember Solomon said that I returned and I saw under the sun. In other words, he has been to a certain place in his life. He has been through things. He has been through things. He said, I returned and I saw. He has been through things, and he came back and he realized something different. Never underestimate the wisdom of age. Because I see a lot of young people coming up and they are beginning to undermine the wisdom of age. They are beginning to look down on their parents. They are beginning to look down on grown-ups just because they have Instagram, they have Facebook, just because they have all this technology around them. They are beginning to undermine the wisdom of age. Be careful. Be very, very careful. You are setting yourself up for failure. It's, oh, you don't know how things are done these days. Things these days are different. No. There is nothing new under the sun. Nothing new. Look at the cars that we are driving these days. Those are cars that were crafted out of old. Look at the clothing we are wearing today. Those are clothing that used to be yesterday's fashion, and you guys have brought them back into today's fashion, and you think it is new. It is not new. Never underestimate the wisdom of age. Look, I respect people who have lived to be old. I respect everyone who is older than me. I salute them and I respect them, because the wisdom of age has prosperity in it. The wisdom of age has treasures in. Even the person who has it does not know what they have. That is why it is wise to interview people with wisdom. That is why it is wise to interview people who are older than you. Speak to them about their life. If you are going through something, find someone who is older than you. The reason why yesterday's generation is smarter than today's generation, because in yesterday's generation, if you wanted to do something, an adult counseled you. In today's generation, if you want to do something, your friend who is the same age as you is your counselor. How are you going to succeed? In yesterday's generation, our teachers were old. In yesterday's generation, our teachers have gone through the age of experience. Experiential wisdom. Experiential wisdom is important. Never undermine experiential wisdom. Be very, very careful with it. It will take you far. One of the most things that I am very, very careful about is never to undermine anyone who was once great and now they have come low in life. It is one of my greatest observations in life. One of my greatest discovery is never to undermine anyone who was once great. They were once on top of the mountain and they have now come low. that is a person that you can get a lot of wisdom from. I have met many people in life, many young people, whether in ministry or whether in secular life, and everyone wants a popular pastor to be their mentor. Everyone wants someone who has 50,000 congregation, 5,000 congregation to be their mentor. Be very, very careful. Imagine what you can gain from someone like Jimmy Swaggart. Imagine what you can get from what you can get from a Jimmy Swaggart, you cannot get you cannot get from a TD Jakes. Because Jimmy Swaggart was where TD Jakes is today. He has been there. He has passed that level. He used to be there. He has seen things. His experiential wisdom is more important to you than anything else. If Jimmy Swaggart was hosting a conference and TD Jakes was hosting a conference, I will go to Jimmy Swaggart's conference, because of the fact that I don't want to know how you got here. I want to know how you fell. It is easy for anyone to rise in life. The difficulty in life is how to maintain yourself once you rise. Anyone can rise. I told you from the beginning that anyone can begin in life. Anyone can start anything in life. How to maintain it is the most difficult thing. And if there is something I want to find out, it's from Jimmy Swaggart. I never underestimate people who rose and they fell in life, because they carry wisdom that will get you far in life. When you are picking your mentors, pick them wisely. When you are picking your life coaches, pick them wisely. Wisdom is imperative. So there is the wisdom of man, which comes with experiential wisdom. As you grow, it increases. As you grow, it increases. Then there is also academic wisdom, which is called the wisdom of this world. That is what Paul calls it in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 1, the verse number 1 Corinthians chapter 2, the verse number 1 to 18, and then 1 Corinthians chapter 2, the verse number 1 to 8, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, the verse number 1 to 18. Those two chapters, Paul talks about this four kinds of wisdom: the wisdom of man, the wisdom of this world, which is academic wisdom. There is wisdom that you acquire through school, through education. Education is very, very important, and you must understand it. It is very, very crucial. If you increase in a certain level of wisdom, educate yourself. Understand that education is not only you going to school or university, though that is a very good way to acquire it, because most of us need discipline. Some of you can read by yourself. Some of you have never locked yourself in a room and read by yourself before. You have never done it before. How can you be successful if you cannot absorb information? Listen to me very carefully. They can pray for you as much as they want, but your success, for you to be successful in life, you require a certain level of information. You require a certain level of knowing. The Bible that you are reading says that my people perish not because of anything, but for lack of knowledge. The acquisition of information, which is knowledge, is important. So if you cannot go to school, read. Lock yourself up in a room and read. Consume as much information as you can consume. Consume it. It will increase your wisdom. It will increase your wisdom. You see, when Jesus was quoting, it is written, it is written. He was not quoting those things because they were inside of him. No, he has read it as a child. You see, for you to be a Jewish man, by the age of 12 years, you should have been able to memorize the first 5 books of Moses and the law of the prophets. That is why when Jesus was 12, he was taken to the temple and all kinds of things, and then he was tested. They call it confirmation. And every Jewish child, even up until this moment, every Jewish child go through confirmation. There are certain churches, like the Orthodox churches. The Catholics calls it a catechism. Catechism is when you go through the biblical system, and then you come to the stage of confirmation. The Presbyterians also have confirmation. The Methodists have confirmation, and all kinds of things. Confirmation requires you to memorize scriptures. So when Jesus was quoting those scriptures, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, and he was saying, it is written, it is written. These are things that he learned through his catechism. He learned these things through his confirmation. He absorbed information. He read. So lock yourself up and learn. Lock yourself up and read. I have seen a bunch of pastors preaching things, and it is pathetic. You are not learning, you are not reading. Your foolishness is drawing people away from the gospel. Read, learn. When someone calls themselves a doctor, it is because they have studied. When someone calls themselves an engineer, it is because they have studied their vocation. They know things about their vocation. When someone calls themselves a nurse, they have studied about their vocation. If you call yourself a pastor, know about your vocation. Know about the book of the Bible. Know about those, memorize those, read those books. Read those books. Understand the history behind those books. Understand those things. Know those things inside of you. So there is wisdom that is acquired by institutions. Wisdom that you acquire through school, through education and whatnot, and so forth and so on. Then there is a third kind of wisdom. This third wisdom is the wisdom of God. The wisdom of God. This is the wisdom that is given by God. This is the wisdom that is given by God. It is called divine wisdom. Divine wisdom. It helps you to understand things and operate the way that God will operate. There was a certain individual in the times of David, the king of Israel. His name was called Ahithophel. And it was said, according to the scribes and according to the historical records, it was said that the counsel of Ahithophel was as though a man has consulted God. Listen carefully. It was said that the counsel of Ahithophel was as though a man had consulted God. In other words, the wisdom of Ahithophel was as though someone has spoken to God. If you speak to Ahithophel, you don't need to speak to God. That is what the interpretation actually meant to say. It says the counsel of Ahithophel was as though someone had consulted God. In other words, when Ahithophel counsels you, it is like hearing from God. There are people living on earth today. They have the Ahithophel wisdom. They have the Ahithophel counsel. They have been endued with a certain level of wisdom that is uncommon to men. And when you speak to them, it is as though you have prayed. Let me say this again. There are certain people living on earth today. When you speak to them, it is as though you prayed and you got an answer. They carry the counsel of Ahithophel inside of them because they have received the wisdom of God. They have wisdom. And those people, they are people that, when they speak into your life, everything becomes clear. You immediately get clarity. And you begin to say, oh, okay, I see. How come I didn't think about this before? That is godly wisdom. When it sinks into you, it changes everything. And the historical records of the scribes in the Bible says that the counsel of Ahithophel was as though a man had consulted God. And the Bible said for that reason, David the king was afraid of Ahithophel. Ahithophel was a close friend of David. He was the counselor of David's court. And David depended on his wisdom to succeed. And when David heard that Ahithophel had joined his counsel to Absalom, who had rebelled against David, the Bible said David was afraid. David was worried. And he went directly to God and he said, God, let the counsel of Ahithophel be turned to foolishness. Because the man carries so much counsel that the king was not afraid of the soldiers. The king David did not pray against the soldiers of Absalom. He did not pray against the army. He did not pray against Absalom. He prayed against the wisdom of Ahithophel. He prayed against the counsel of Ahithophel. The reason was because Ahithophel carried something that David feared. If David allowed it to succeed, it will mess up his life. So we are told that he directed his effort towards Ahithophel. That is the wisdom of God. Everyone must inquire and everyone must seek for the wisdom of God. In all my life, if there is anything I have prayed for more than anything in my life, is wisdom. I have prayed for wisdom over 1,000 times and over. I have prayed every day of my life when I wake up and I say, God, give me wisdom. God, give me wisdom. I have prayed for wisdom more than 100 times a day. Godly wisdom is essential for your success in life. The fourth kind of wisdom is what I called diabolical wisdom. Diabolical wisdom or demonic wisdom. That is the wisdom you acquire through dark crafts or dark arts. It is the wisdom you acquire through things such as occultism, Freemasonries. Wisdom that you acquire through diabolical and demonic enchantments and invocations. Those are wisdoms that you get through dark spirits and so forth and so on. So wisdom is important. But as I told you before, there has been a poor wise person. There are many poor wise people. Wisdom will not make you rich. There has been poor wise people. Solomon said, and I saw a poor wise man living in a city. There are poor wise people. Why was he poor? And this is what I'm going to tell you today, and I'm done. So give me 5 minutes and we are done today. I call this the principle of the bread, or the bread principle. And the bread principle is simply this: you eat what you produce. You eat what you produce. Principle number 3 today. Write this down. Understand this very carefully and leave this for the rest of your life. You eat what you produce. In other words, if you don't produce anything, you will not have anything to eat. Listen carefully. You remember Paul made a statement and Paul said, he who does not work should not eat. That word work, the translation did not do it a lot of good. The translation actually meant he who does not produce anything. So it comes from the book of Genesis, which is labor. Man will labor to produce, to eat. He who does not produce anything should not be allowed to eat. The principle of the blessed bread simply means that you will have to produce to be successful. You will have to produce to be successful. You will have to produce to be successful. There was a poor wise man. The reason why he was poor was because he had not produced anything. But he had a product. His product was wisdom. His product was counsel. Because of his wisdom, he could have been a great counselor to the king, but he never understood how to manage what he had. So he couldn't cash in. So after he gave his counsel to the king, and the nation was delivered, he made no money out of it. The reason was because he did not produce anything. Understand this in life. Those of you who are praying that God should bless you, the first question you should ask yourself is, what am I producing to be blessed? Those of you who are asking the question, God should bless me. He said, God bless me, God bless me, God bless me. What are you producing to be blessed? You see, when the farmer prays that God will bless his farm so that he can eat from it. When the doctor prays that God will bless his business so that he can prosper from it. What are you producing? The woman who sells at the marketplace prays that God will bless his bread, God will bless the things that she is producing so that she can prosper out of it. You can never prosper out of what you do not produce. Listen very carefully. Prosperity comes from what you produce. If you are not producing, you are not prospering. And I began by telling you this. If you ask God to bless you, and he said, God, I want this car. I want a Maybach, a Mercedes Maybach. Now, first of all, you are driving a Ford Focus and you want a Mercedes Maybach, and you are working in McDonald's with a minimum wage. There is nothing wrong with that. We all begin from somewhere. That is not the problem. The problem is what you are about to add. So you are working in McDonald's, you are driving a Ford Focus. You are able to get, with a Ford Focus, you get the low grade gas and you are good. For the low grade gas, even when gas prices go up, you are still okay. But now you want a Mercedes Maybach, and you know that you have to put a premium gas in that. On what salary? What are you producing for you to demand that blessing? Your blessing is measured by what you are producing. Write that down. Your blessings are measured by what you are producing. God will never bless you beyond what you cannot handle. Listen very carefully. I will say this again. You can never be blessed beyond what you cannot handle. You cannot be. You remember the scripture you have been quoting and praying with, that no temptation has seized you except that which is common to man. And God will not allow you to enter any temptation, that he has not provided any way of escape, so forth and so on. You can never be blessed beyond what you cannot handle. Why will God give you something you cannot handle? Why? That would be an irresponsible father. Why will God bless you with a house when you cannot maintain the house? That is irresponsible. Who on earth buys a house for a 5-year-old kid and leave the 5-year-old kid to live in the house all by themselves? That is irresponsible. That is irresponsible. So before you ask God for something, make sure that what you are producing can sustain it. Make sure that what you are producing can sustain the blessing. Make sure of that. Make sure of that. Now, understand this. If you are working, and you should be working somehow, which means you should be producing something. If I use the word work, I'm saying produce. Now, if you are working, and your job that you are working, you wake up in the morning, maybe your job is from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, or 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, or the business hours 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Now, if that is your business hours, you should understand something, and you should come to the conclusion of that thing. You cannot be blessed beyond what you are producing. Listen very, very carefully. If you are working 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, 9 to 5, you cannot be blessed beyond what you are producing. You cannot have more than you are working for. It's as simple as that. You cannot have more than you are working for. You cannot be richer than your boss. That is what I'm trying to tell you. You cannot be richer than your boss. It is a dangerous thing to be working for someone and to be praying for God to make you richer than the person you are working for. It doesn't make sense. And I will explain this to you. You are only blessed in proportion to what you produce. If you want to be richer than your boss, quit your job and start producing something, and ask God to bless what you are producing, and let what you are producing be more than what your boss is producing. But if you are working for your boss and you are not producing anything, but you are only supplementary what your boss is producing, and you are praying and asking God to bless you more than your boss, to make you richer than your boss, that is insane. That is crazy. The reason is because of the fact that what you are producing is coming from your boss, because you work for your boss. So what you are getting is coming from your boss. Now you are asking God to make you richer than your boss. Your blessing is only proportional to what you produce. So if you want to be rich, if you want to prosper, start producing something. Start doing something. Begin a business. Begin something in life. Whatever you have, lay it on the table and begin to sell it. You see, the poor wise man had wisdom. He should have sold that wisdom. He didn't sell it. The reason why he remained poor was because he did not sell the wisdom to the king. That was why he remained poor. Not because of the very fact that he was not wise. He was wise. But the only problem was that he did not cash in his product. Listen very carefully. Paul made a statement, and Paul said that what the ox plows is what the ox eat. Let me say this again. What the ox plows is what the ox eat. Give me 1 minute, I will end here. What the ox plows is what the ox eat. What does that mean? What that simply means is that what the ox is producing is what the ox is eating from. The ox gets to eat from its labor. The ox gets to eat from what it is producing. Listen very carefully. What you are plowing is what you eat from. So if you want abundance, change what you are plowing. And let what you are plowing be proportional to what you are producing. What the ox plows is what the ox eats. The farmer eats from what he produces. The farmer eats from what he produces. What are you producing? Bread is not to men of wisdom. Bread is not to men of wisdom. To be successful in life, you must produce something. You can never be rich than the person you are working for. If you want to be rich than the person you are working for, produce something. Produce your own business. Produce something. Everyone has something to produce. Everyone has something to sell. So I began by telling you that everyone has the capability to be successful on earth. Everyone has the capability to be successful on earth. Even you. You have what it takes inside of you to be successful. Let me end by saying this to you. Many years ago, I read a story. And in the story, I read about a woman who is a millionaire. How did she become a millionaire was that she was employed to model her hands. She does not model her entire body. She models only her hands. Her hands were used for jewelries. You know, when they have to model jewelries in magazines, rings, chains, and things like that. They have to model it in magazines and things like that. She is one of the most famous candidates that they use for that. So they will take only pictures of her hands and how the ring looks like and so forth and so on. And out of that, she was making millions out of that. You are successful by what you produce. Now listen carefully. She didn't need academic education to do that. She only used what she had and she was successful. It is said that there were many movies that Julia Roberts never showed up in, but her legs appeared in those movies. Let me repeat this to you. There were many movies that Julia Roberts, the actress of Pretty Woman, there are many movies that she never appeared in, but her legs appeared in it. According to the movie industry, her legs were so pretty that even though she was not in the movie, they will pick a woman and the woman is in the movie and they will take Julia Roberts' legs and they will place the woman's body on Julia Roberts' leg. So you are looking at the woman, but the legs do not belong to her. So even though she was not acting in the movie, her legs was being paid out of it. You have something. You have something to be successful with. It doesn't have to be big, but you can make money out of something. See, when you go on Instagram, when you go on Facebook, and all you do is you just click likes. The people you are liking, they are making money out of you. The people. I'm saying this because my wife is laughing when I'm saying this, because she goes on Instagram and she likes. And I tell her, I'm like, that's too much like for people. Understand this. The people you are liking on this social media, they are making money out of your likes. You must produce if you want to be successful. You must produce if you want to be successful. Bread is not to the wise. It is to those that produce. That is why you may be wiser than your boss, but your boss is richer than you. Look at Donald Trump. He doesn't need a lot of wisdom, but he's the president of a whole nation. What are you producing? What are you producing if you want to be blessed? Before you go on your knees and you pray those prayers for hours untold and hours untold, what are you producing? Produce something to be blessed. Produce something. I'll thank you all for joining me. I have enjoyed the session with you today. There is a lot for me to say to you, but our time is spent. Our time is spent, and I want to leave this with you. And tomorrow I'll come back again. I said I have only 5 days to do this. I have 2 days left, Thursday and Friday. If you can commit yourself to this 5-day period, if you have not listened to the rest of the things I spoke about yesterday and on Monday, go back and listen to it. It's on my social media. Go back and listen to it. It is on YouTube. Go back and listen to it, so that you can pick certain things out of this. If you are able to follow what I am talking about and you work it out, I promise you, you will make it in life. I came to understand in life that you don't need a lot to be successful in life. You don't need a lot. There is so much available to us right now. Many of you, my advice to you is that begin reading. Begin reading. If you don't like reading, try audiobooks. Audiobooks are cheap. The book I told you, those of you who are interested, I told you to purchase that book by Gladwell. That book is even free if you sign up for Audible trials on Amazon. It is free. You can listen to the audio and feed yourself information. Those of you who are Christians, you don't have to read just your Bible. Read other books. Consume other information. The Bible is not the only book you have to read. Jesus said, be wise as the children of this earth. Be wise like the children of this earth. Read outside your information base. Read out. I remember one time a young lady called me and she said unto me that, is it wrong for a Christian to read astrology books? And I said, no, it is never wrong to read astrology books as long as you are not practicing astrology. Because she comes from a church where they scare them like, oh, you should not read this book. These astrology books, these books are demonic. You should not read it and all kinds of things. There are even children in school who refuse to read books about Charles Darwin, about evolution and whatnot. That is foolishness. It is knowledge. It is information. Read it. As long as you are not pursuing it, as long as you are not practicing it, read it for the sake of information. There are 2 things you have to know on earth: what to do and what not to do. You must know these 2 things. You must know what to do and you must know what not to do. For you to know what not to do, you must read about it. You must get the information from somewhere. You must get the information from somewhere. There are too many ignorant Christians around. Too many ignorant Christians. Read, consume yourself with information. Get some audiobooks. Audiobooks, most of them are even free on YouTube. The very popular audiobooks, most of them are free on YouTube. Just put a book title on YouTube and add audio book to it or something, and you will get it. And then, when you are driving to work, when you are riding the train, the bus to work, plug your ears into something valuable that you can feed from. Forget about this rap music and this hip hop music and this crazy stuff you'll be feeding yourself with, and then you'll be having these bad dreams and you think the devil is chasing. No, that's not why the devil is chasing you. Read, feed yourself with information. All my life, if there's anything I have done that I'm so happy for, is that I read. I read beyond my education system. I created my own library in my house. When I was growing up in high school, I made my own stamps. I went to Staples and I made a stamp and I called it a Cephas private library. I made a stamp. That was how serious I was. And I bought the books. I bought books. I made a shelf. And every book I bought, I stamp it. Cephas private library. And I loaned out my books to people. And many people still have my books with Cephas private library stamp in it. If you have it, I want it back. Most of you borrowed my books and never returned it. Please bring back my books, please. I'm just kidding. But all I'm saying is that read. Read. You can never produce. You can never be successful if you don't produce anything. If you want abundance of success, if you want surplus, if the farmer wants surplus, he produces more. If you want abundance, you produce more. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate all of you. Yes, Jeffrey, that is the book. David and Goliath, Underdogs, Misfits, and the Art of Battling Giants. I love that subtitle, The Art of Battling Giants. Read, read. I'll see you tomorrow. I trust that you have been blessed. I trust that your spirit has been lifted up. And I trust that you know and you believe that you are capable of anything. That there is something in you that you can also produce. There is something in you that you can also put on the market. Most of you are comedians. You make people laugh. Go on YouTube. Begin to buy things and begin to produce some comedy on YouTube. Make things fun. Most of you, you love products. Get the products and begin to review them on the market, on Facebook. A lot of people are doing reviews of products on YouTube. Begin a review of a product that you love on YouTube. I mean not on YouTube, but on Facebook Live. Begin one yourself on Facebook Live. Begin one on Instagram. Do something. Do something. Produce out of something, and don't just sit there. You are blessed, and your greatness is coming to you. God bless you.